Let us pray. Our Father, we confidently ask your strength and encouragement in our service of you through our service of others. We humbly ask for your gift of wisdom to guide us in making good laws and good decisions for the present and for the future of Alberta. Amen. Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. The Honourable Member for Calgary-Milliken.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to present a petition with 49 names. It's a petition requesting that the provincial government set up a committee to review our policies regarding daycare.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports. The Honourable the Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism.
Mr. Speaker, I've got two reports to table today. One, the annual report for the Glenbow Museum in Calgary for 1990, and the second, the 12th annual report of the Alberta Library Board for the year 89-90.
The Honourable Minister of Recreation and Parks.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table 4 copies of a letter to the Honourable Robert Decotre, Minister of Environment, in response to a question brought forth by the member for Meadowlark in regards to logging in the Wood Buffalo National Park.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the results of a telephone survey conducted of university and university transfer programs 2 weeks ago. This survey shows that not only are the university programs full, but there is very little space in college university programs as well. In fact, most are turning students away. Thank you.
Introduction of special guests. A member for Edmonton-Avonmore.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure today to introduce to you 83 students from Holy Trinity School, which is situated in the constituency of Avonmore, although it is in the community of Mill Woods. These students are seated in both the members and the public gallery, and they are accompanied by teachers Joan Hunt and Phyllis Schumacher. I would ask that they now rise and receive the warm welcome of this assembly.
The Honourable the Minister of Tourism. Excuse me, the Honourable Member for Edmonton-Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have another group of students also from Holy Trinity School, which I again would introduce to you and through you to the members of this assembly. There are 76 students. One person is in a wheelchair. They're again seated in the members in the public gallery. Holy Trinity High School is in the constituency of Edmonton-Avonmore, but many of the students live in the constituency of Mill Woods, which is represented by my colleague Jerry from Mill Woods. They are accompanied by teachers Mr. George Robert and Cynthia Winter. I would ask that they too rise and receive the warm welcome of this assembly.
The Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me a great pleasure today to introduce the parents of Lance Losey, Lance being a page in our legislature. Cheryl and Mark Losey, his parents, are in the gallery today, along with his brother Landon and sister Lisa. And I'd like the parents and Landon and Lisa to stand and be recognized here today by my colleagues.
Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Legislative Assembly a group of students from the Peace Hills Adventist Academy in Wetaskiwin. There are 13 students. They range from grades 5 to 9, and they're seated in the members' gallery. I wish they would rise and receive the warm welcome of the House.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and to the members of the Assembly 11 students from the Alberta Vocational Centre at the Winifred Stewart campus in my riding. They're in the members gallery and they are accompanied by their teacher, Lorna Wilson. I would ask that they rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Economic Development and Trade. Mr. Speaker, we have the ongoing saga of waste and mismanagement from this government, Mr. Speaker. This government has made its position absolutely clear. It's free enterprise for our average citizens and corporate welfare for its business friends.
Right.
Mr. Speaker, we're probably going to lose $7.6 million with the bankruptcy of Climate Master. But now the list goes on, Mr. Speaker. The official opposition has just learned that Alberta Pacific Terminals, a corporate welfare bum to the tune of $12 million, has decided to close its corporate office in Calgary and move to Vancouver. Take the taxpayers' money and run, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first the government won't stick up for Calgary jobs lost with CBC cuts, and now Calgarians lose even more, even though Alberta taxpayers have $12 million on the hook. My question to the minister is simply this. What plans, if any, does the minister have to stop this move, or is he just going to let Alberta Pacific Terminals take the money and run?
Mr. Speaker, I should indicate to the honourable member as it relates to the lead-in to his question that is dealing with Climate Master, it's far too soon to indicate as to what the write-off will be. We acknowledge there will be some losses. And as I've indicated to him in the past, and let me deal with Climate Master for a moment and then turn to Alberta Terminals since he did raise it, I've indicated to honourable members in the past that the Export Loan Guarantee Program, under which we involved ourselves with Climate Master, has a success rate of 96 to 97%. In other words, this falls in the category of a 3% failure, which is an excellent success rate, Mr. Speaker, creating jobs in this province for the exportation of Alberta goods. As it relates to Alberta Terminals Limited, I should indicate to the honourable member the head office was located in Calgary. I question as to whether there will be any jobs lost or not as it relates to that move, as it was only a corporate office. There might be one individual employed there, so his allegation as to loss of jobs is totally inaccurate, as he usually is. Let me also indicate to the honourable member the hypocrisy that he raises as it relates to our support for business. I get letters from his members in the New Democratic Party suggesting to me to offer loan guarantee to companies that they're working for. I've got a letter right here if he wishes to see it, so don't give me that hypocrisy.
Don't give us the hypocrisy. No money for hospitals. No money for this. No money for that. $250 million down the tubes, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
That's the hypocrisy from this government.
To their corporate
Now,
friends.
Mr. Speaker, I want to ask a question about Alberta Pacific Terminals. They are moving. Those are jobs, and that is important when they move out of Calgary and move to Vancouver with $12 million of taxpayers' money.
Hear, hear.
Now, my question, a very simple one, is Alberta taxpayers want to know why this government would loan Alberta Pacific Terminals $12 million when its debts are $20.5 million and its assets are only $3.9 million. What kind of nonsense is that?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member shouldn't exercise him so close to the festive season. But I should indicate to him, too, the reason for the investment so that we would have access to tidewater, as our investment was in the Port of Churchill. We put millions of dollars into the Port of Churchill so that our producers within this province would have access to tidewater. That is why originally this government involved itself with Alberta Terminals also, so that we would have greater access so that our producers within this province could export their goods outside of the province. Contrary to what the honourable members feel, we think it's important to have greater trading ties with other countries. They would like to see us isolated here as a province so that we could slowly deteriorate.
Just hand out the money to the corporate friends. I noticed they donated $1,000 to you. That had nothing to do with it, I'm sure, didn't it, Mr. Speaker?
Yeah.
Now, my question to come back. I mean, this is just one. We could go on forever in question period on their bundles, Mr. Speaker. But he already talked a bit about Climate Master, and we're going to take a bath there. He admits that, probably close to the $7.6 million. But I want to, the reason we're at risk is this government did not secure the taxpayer money that it advanced. Now, my question is a very simple one. Anybody that understood business as well as the treasurer should know this question. I want to ask why the government forked over $7 million to a company without taking any security in exchange. Some business government, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure where the honourable member is coming from, because first he deals with a $1,000 contribution to my campaign. I must say I find it distasteful that the honourable member would judge me on his own low standards, whereby he would think it would be effective. Secondly, he has suggested we have lost some $250 million, which again is totally inaccurate. If we go through the list of the figures as to what they've included, there is no reality to them whatsoever. As it relates to gainers, we haven't lost 1 cent yet. The honourable member, and again, it's turned around, as the provincial treasurer has indicated, to a profitable position. As it relates to and I'm not sure he indicated a $7 million exposure, if he's talking about Climate Master or he's talking about Alberta Terminals, I'm not sure which. I've indicated to him that there were securities in place. We involve ourselves, Mr. Speaker, so that we can create jobs and opportunities for Albertans. We don't apologize for that involvement. And there are going to be occasional failures. And yes, I have that responsibility to clean up those failures. And I'm going to do that also. We've also indicated that we are going to pull back. And we are pulling back considerably from our involvements in the past, because we went through a real downturn through a number of years back when we went through that recessionary period. But we felt an obligation to create jobs for Albertans, unlike the New Democratic Party.
Friends. Yep. There it is, the list of all the campaign donations.
Order, please.
That's why they go.
Order, please. Order.
To the Minister of Energy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday his conservative friends and buddies in Ottawa broke another promise to Canadians. We find the toothless federal green plan coming up, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Mulrooney and his gang had promised to reduce CO2 emissions by 20% by the year 2000. Now they say in their disappointing green plan, as I say, the toothless green plan, that they will instead target a freeze by that year. Well, what does our Minister of Energy say about this, Mr. Speaker? He says he is happy about it, Mr. Speaker. He is pleased that the single biggest contributor to the greenhouse effect will not be reduced, and that the energy industry, a major contributor to CO2 emissions, is not required to start reducing emissions. What a totally irresponsible attitude. My question is simply this, to this minister that has to be asked, is the minister not aware that CO2 emissions are a major source of the greenhouse effect?
Mr. Speaker, I ask that the Leader of the Opposition not be so sanctimonious. He drives around in a big Chrysler Fifth Avenue.
Where do you drive, Rick?
Mr. Speaker, my question is simply this. At least I can read the books and understand what CO2 emissions do to the environment, unlike this minister. And I want to ask him again the question. He thinks he's so flippant. You're not going to be the leader with that sort of attitude.
That's right.
My question again, is he not aware of the seriousness of CO2 emissions? And why would he make the comments that he did, Mr. Speaker?
If If he understands the impact of CO2, Mr. Speaker, why doesn't he turn his car in and take the bus?
Mr. Speaker, it's just typical of this government. They think it's a joke. The most serious matter that we face. Serious. It's a shameful performance, Mr. of Energy. And I want to ask the minister this question. Mr. Speaker. No, I'm not embarrassed. I'm driving the same car that you are over there, Honorable Member.
Probably smaller.
And the same car he is over there, Mr. Member. Now, my question is that the government's own research council report, has the minister looked at it? And what they say, the research council has found that there's a problem in global warming and that we can expect a temperature rise of 5 to 7 degrees by the year 2010 if we stop producing CO2 immediately. Now, the minister, it's a very serious question. Does the minister disagree with the Research Council then? And is that the reason he's making these statements?
Mr. Speaker, we have dealt as energy ministers with this 3 times in the last 13 or 14 months. And what we have asked the federal government with relation to the Green Plan is that we agree and understand that global warming is occurring. We agree and acknowledge that something should be done, and something should be done now. We just ask the question about levels, about whether stabilization over 1990 rates is appropriate, whether reducing it 20% over the 1988 levels by the year 2005 is appropriate. What we've decided to do in Alberta, Mr. Speaker, is to put together the clean air strategy for Alberta, made up of environmentalists, industry, public interest groups, city councils. They are right this moment, Mr. Speaker, consulting with Albertans to determine the extent to which achieving certain levels of CO2 emissions in Alberta would create dislocation for jobs and would create modification of lifestyle. If Albertans believe that we should take the steps that are suggested by the atmospheric conference that was held in Toronto in 1988, or the Green Plan, if Albertans believe in it and communicate that to us, Mr. Speaker, we will move to achieve those levels. But we will not move until we have consulted Albertans.
Honourable Member, Honourable Leader of the Liberals. Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Minister responsible for forests in Alberta, but I would like to start by thanking the Minister of Parks and Recreation for the letter that he sent to our offices indicating that he has sent a letter to Mr. Decotre, the Minister of Environment for the federal government, setting out the concern that he has with respect to the logging that is going on in Buffalo National Park. Mr. Speaker, logging in the national park is morally wrong, and it doesn't matter who made the decision. It was a mistake, and it is a mistake. But we have the opportunity of correcting the mistake before the most magnificent white spruce stand in Alberta is lost forever. This is a stand that has the highest tree in Alberta and amongst the most beautiful trees in Alberta. Trees along the Peace River Valley that go right through Buffalo National Park. And the tragedy, Mr. Speaker, is this, that the kind of logging that is taking place is so harmful, so complete, that the people involved in parks in that area believe that reforestation will never take place. My first question to the minister is this. Given that we have this potential of losing the most magnificent of tree stands in Alberta, will the minister agree that this is an issue that transcends jurisdictional concerns and requires the minister and the other minister and all of the government members and all Albertans to become involved in stopping this mistake from being total and complete?
Logging there for years. Mr. Speaker, it's quite an impassioned plea from the honourable member. I wonder if he's looked at the trees in that particular area. We are not going to lose our last stand of white spruce in the province of Alberta. And one of the things that we have to recognize in the province is that we want to make sure the federal government doesn't interfere in forestry practices on provincial lands. That's provincial resource, one that we have the highest standards anywhere in the country, are enhancing those standards to make sure that not only the logging practices take into account wildlife habitat,
but takes into account reforestation, and that everything is properly done. Mr. Speaker, with respect to the national park, that is under federal jurisdiction, and the only thing I will say with respect to the logging practices there are three things. First of all, make sure that the cut block sizes that they're doing are ones that are properly done and up to the same standard as the provincial standard. Make sure that wildlife habitat's taken into account. That would be the second thing. And thirdly, the reforestation practices are the high standard that we've established in the province and are not any lower than that. Mr. Speaker, I would agree that there should be a concern among all people about logging. It takes place in national parks. But, Mr. Speaker, instead of playing politics with the issue, let's be reasonable individuals and look at it. And the federal government, I'm sure, has heard the concerns from Alberta, and we certainly, the Minister of Recreation and Parks, raising those concerns, and properly so, will be one that will highlight the issue, Mr. Speaker, and we will be able to make sure that what is done in the national park is truly something that can make all Albertans proud.
Here, here. Well, from your side, you're more interested in picking on Freddie the giraffe.
Mr. Speaker, in my conversation with the superintendent of Wood Buffalo Park this morning, I was informed that it is about 1,000 hectares of land where the white spruce tree grows in fertile soil along the Peace River Valley right through Wood Buffalo National Park. And it is these trees that Canfor wants the most. And it is these trees that they're logging out. And it is these trees that are the highest and the most magnificent, and we will lose them. This isn't a matter of politics. It's saving a gem within the national park. And we don't need gratuitous advice about how to do it. Mr. Minister, will you do this? The question is this. Will you call on Canfor and Diashawa? You know these companies well. Will you bring them to a room? Will you sit down with them and say, look, we need to stop the logging, and act as a facilitator to bring the federal government into that same meeting to pay them compensation so they don't kill the gem in this park?
You're not going to do it. Mr. Speaker, I've made it clear that the jurisdiction is rightly so in the federal government, and if it would make the honourable member's blood pressure go down, I will be happy to talk to the federal minister, and he, in fact, can talk to the relevant companies. And I've offered before that any assistance we can give as a province to make sure that the high standards that we've established in Alberta are, in fact, taking the same standard as practice at Wood Buffalo, we would be happy to comply. And Mr. Speaker, I would hope the honourable member's blood pressure would stay down. It's an issue that's of concern to all, but we will raise it with the federal government, recognizing that it's their jurisdiction.
Mr. Speaker, the precedent in British Columbia of the provincial government working with the federal government is a good precedent. That is Moresby Island, where citizens in British Columbia rose up and said, don't destroy this most magnificent of tree stands on Moresby Island. The provincial government got behind that initiative, and a proposal was worked out. My question is this, Mr. Minister, will you take the same kind of initiatives that your counterparts in British Columbia took in saving Moresby Island's magnificent tree stands for our tree stand in Wood Buffalo Park?
Mr. Speaker, with all respect, you can compare the two. Maybe in somebody's minds they can be, but you know, I want to emphasize it's all Albertans care deeply about protected areas, ecological reserves, natural areas, and national parks. We all want to make sure that we protect and enhance the environment that we live in. Mr. Speaker, we will do anything to be helpful, but the bottom line is we must recognize that if we ask the federal government to respect our jurisdiction, we must also respect theirs.
The honourable member for Bow Valley. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism. Mr. Speaker, we've been hearing a lot of suggestions that the government do something to control the distribution of adult videotapes. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Minister what he is doing in regard to correcting this situation and keeping these tapes out of the hands of children.
Mr. Speaker, the opposition seems very anxious to hear the answer. In fact, they're conversing amongst them, asking for quiet amongst themselves so they can hear this answer, because it's an important issue. An important issue. But, Mr. Speaker, it has two components. One is the XXX-rated adult soft porn videos, if you will, and the other is the regular fare that's available in most movie theaters. And on the XXX videos, there are several avenues that could be pursued to arrive at some control. Number one is the federal obscenity laws, of course, part of the federal criminal code. There are some problems there, however, because of a couple of pending Supreme Court decisions based on challenges raised in Ontario and Manitoba. Another way to do it would be to have local municipalities control the opening and closing and the business regulations of these shops, either through zoning, through their business licenses requirements, or through some similar statute as respecting cigarette sales. Mr. Speaker, it would be my position. I would be favoring the latter, and I will be urging the Municipal Statutes Review Committee to implement that as in their current review of municipal statutes.
Mr. Speaker, children under 18 years old are restricted from going to R-rated movies in the theater, and yet they can buy them or rent them from a local distribution agent. Is this consistent?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the current provisions of provincial legislation provide that films available for public viewing in a theater would be classified by, in this province, the Alberta Film Censor Board. Several attempts have been made in other jurisdictions to expand that to videotapes. Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Ontario, British Columbia have tried it. Manitoba is about to. In the jurisdictions that have tried video classification, that have attempted to add a sticker to a box, they have found, for a variety of reasons, that it doesn't work. A number of jurisdictions are trying to get out of it. They found it completely unworkable. Manitoba, I understand, will probably institute its regulations early in the new year, and already there are rumblings of discontent amongst the industry, which, Mr. Speaker, seems generally fairly well self-policed. Mr. Speaker, I would be reluctant now to advocate for the addition of a large provincial bureaucracy, for a large system of enforcement, for trying to solve all the operational problems that obviously exist due to the experience of other jurisdictions. Would be reluctant to preempt a move towards a national film and video classification system that all provinces are working on, and would be very hesitant to commit large sums of taxpayers' dollars to a system that already doesn't work. Mr. Speaker, it would be my view that the same type of regulations that I suggested earlier for the XXX videos could be imposed on the local video rental stores, either through zoning, through a business regulation, or through a review of the municipal statutes. One thing we should remember, Mr. Speaker, is that some movies that are classified, for example, PG-13 or M in Canada are classified R in the United States. And Ontario right now has got a stack of 500 videos, unclassified, waiting for classification. They don't have anybody to do it. They don't have any mechanism to do it. And they're going to need hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it in a way that doesn't require it, because it'll be looked after another way.
Now the member for Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, my questions today are to the acting premier. In a landmark decision today, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled against the renowned hate monger from Alberta, James Keekstra, and upheld the constitutionality of Canada's hate laws. This decision represents an important statement on this country's commitment to the principle of dignity and equality of all citizens, and the necessity that we not allow these preeminent values to be eroded by hatred and ignorance. So to the acting premier, now that we have this Supreme Court ruling, will the acting premier now end the double standard that exists in Alberta of prosecuting Indians, Lubicons, and Pagans while letting the hate mongers go free?
Order, please. In answering the question, the chair would suggest to the acting premier that he beware of the rule about a legal opinion.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, there's no connection between the Supreme Court decision that came down today and the government's position and other minority groups. Our policy has been very clear. We're out front in terms of advocating equal opportunity for all groups in this province. We have gone a long ways to do that. we've taken a very strong position against the Keegstra position, and we think that all Albertans will support the Supreme Court decision.
Supplementary to the Acting Premier, in light of this clear direction that has now been given by the Supreme Court, I want to ask the Acting Premier if he'll give a firm commitment today to launch vigorous prosecutions against the Aryan nations and their hate mongers who were involved in that sickening display of hatred in Provost recently. Will you go after them?
Again, Mr. Speaker, I acknowledge your comments about making any statements which may in fact interfere with ongoing review of that issue. The Attorney General is not here today, and he is the one who's only informed on any prosecutions which may be proceeding with any issue, and I would not want to interfere with that, the judgment of the Attorney General in this case.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton White Mud.
Mr. Speaker, there are thousands of families in this province living in poverty, in desperate need of subsidized housing. I do not understand, Mr. Speaker, how this government can allow such sloppiness that a person making in excess of $100 grand a year can occupy a unit meant for someone that requires help, someone that requires that assistance. Maybe there are dozens or hundreds of similar situations throughout this province. Mr. Speaker, to the minister responsible for housing, can the minister assure this House that every step will be taken immediately to ensure that any units under his responsibility is occupied only by Albertans qualifying for those benefits?
Yes. Mr. Speaker, yes, I will take that as a commitment.
Mr. Speaker, when a person receives excess social assistance benefits because of a bureaucratic error, the recipient is made to repay those benefits because of legislation passed by this Assembly. To the minister responsible for housing, will the minister assure this House that he will take the necessary steps to ensure that the Deputy Premier reimburses Alberta Mortgage and Housing for any benefits he received that he did not qualify for?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to make it clear that in this situation there's no direct subsidy that transfers between the provincial government and the owners of the respective apartment buildings or the individual, any individual that's in any one of the apartment units. The situation at the present time is between the renter and the owner of the apartment building or the property managers, whereby a repayment can be made, and if that repayment is made, that any excess above the operating costs of the facility would be returned to the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation. It's a normal procedure, and it can be put into effect, and I'm certain, Mr. Speaker, that it would be put into effect in this case.
The Honourable Member for Vegreville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government's agenda to undermine and try and ruin the reputation of the duly democratically elected representatives of the Alberta Pork Producers Marketing Board is well known. It began with their support of Peter Pocklington following the infamous hog wars of 1985 and carried on through a series of not one, not two, but three reviews of the pricing policies of the pork board. They were vindicated in every instance. But this sorry saga has reached a new low, Mr. Speaker, with a letter sent December 10th to the Pork Producers Development Corporation from the Marketing Council, signed by the Minister of Agriculture, and it says here that no meetings, either official or unofficial, scheduled or ad hoc, formal or informal, without sufficient notice of such a proposed meeting to Council, may be held without sufficient notice. And I'd like to ask the Minister who seems to prefer intimidation and threats to diplomacy, will he now stand in his place, admit that he's gone way overboard with this kind of heavy-handed tactic, apologize to the pork producers of Alberta, and get on with trying to negotiate a diplomatic settlement to the dispute that seems to exist?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is apparently waving around a copy of some directives issued by Marketing Council to the Pork Producer Development Corporation, which did receive my approval. I trust he's got the ability to read the entire directives and relate it to the appropriate legislation. If he has that ability, I'm sure he will realize that this Assembly passes certain laws. Those laws set out certain ground rules that all public boards and commissions must adhere to. That law even sets a mechanism in place to ensure that they do, that mechanism being Marketing Council. Marketing Council is simply carrying out its regulatory supervisory functions under an act passed by this legislature.
Mr. Speaker, the minister's halo doesn't fit very well. It's well known that there are some disputes among hog producers in the province, but he has clearly chosen sides and uses his position as minister to influence the outcome of what should be a democratically resolved decision. And I'd like to ask the minister, given the fact that he, at a meeting of pork producers last year, told them that when for the first time their price was slightly above the Toronto price, that they were being paid too much for their hogs, and given this recent heavy-handed action, how can pork producers in the province of Alberta possibly believe that this Minister of Agriculture has their best interests at heart?
Right on. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I would have to take some difference of opinion with some of the opening remarks suggesting that I have stated that pork producers were getting overpaid for their hogs. If that was his interpretation, he totally misunderstood the issue, and I don't recall the honourable member being there. Secondly, I can only reiterate, if we're going to take the time of this House to pass legislation, then we better be sincere in seeing that that legislation is followed out.
Member for Grand Prairie. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Transportation and Utilities, and I'm going to continue with the saga of Highway 40 between Grand Prairie and Grand Cache. This is an important link, Mr. Speaker, of a primary highway, and I think it's important that we do not let this topic settle at any time until it's completed. We have important things happening at both ends of that highway. Grand Cache is a community that's on the move and growing. Grand Prairie is providing services that extend as far away as Grand Cache. Yet the highway does not seem to be gaining completion at a very rapid rate. We have a 1992 50th anniversary of the Alaska Highway, of 1995 Canada Winter Games involving Grand Prairie and Jasper. We'd like to see this highway completed before these major events. We've had petitions from both the Grand Cache and the Grand Prairie areas submitted to the department, and we'd like to have an update on where we stand with the completion of the highway.
Well, Mr. Speaker, relative to the question about having... We're not short of gas, are we? Mr. Speaker, in relation to Highway 40 from Grand Prairie to Grand Cache, there's been one particular contract completed this year, and we have tentatively scheduled one for next year. There's a number of things that occur. The request from the local committee to have it paved by 1992, I indicated to them was impossible, but that we would work with the possibility of having the federal government work with us to see whether some other means could be placed in, I guess you could say, relative to the safety of those who may be using that road. As a result of that, we also have determined that we're going to have to rebuild a portion of the road from Grand Cache to the mine site, all of which will take time and money, and I'm not sure that we can meet the 1995 schedule. I would suggest it may be even a little later than that. But subject to the availability of dollars and the weather, we'll continue to work as we have done on almost all of the other primary highways in the province. Once we've started, we'll continue until we have it paved.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, reference is frequently made to the dollars involved, and we can appreciate that, but we're getting conflicting reports from people in the industry that are in this kind of work and members from the government as to what it would really cost to complete that project. If there's not enough money for hard surface, would there at least be something available for dust control and safety with respect to dust and loose gravel?
Well, Mr. Speaker, two things. We did approach the federal government relative to some assistance through the Alberta North Agreement for dust control for the period 1992. Maybe I should also add that as a result of the number of requests that I got from the Grand Prairie area, I checked as to what the condition is of the Alaska Highway itself. Roughly 2,500 kilometers in length, 964 and a half are paved, 1,592 are not, and they are basically covered with what they call BTS, and that is bitumen surface treatment or the dust control, and there's 23 kilometers that are straight gravel at this point.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
Keep going. Yes, I will. On the Highway 40, the pavement is 171.76 kilometers. 152.99 is unpaved, and I have to add to that, or take away from that, the 16 that we did this year. So there is dust control that will be put in place, and that will be done partly next year and the year after early, so that it'll be in place for any of the visitors who may be traveling that particular route to the 50th anniversary of the Alaska Highway and their destination either in Alaska or the Yukon.
The honourable member for Edmonton Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the residents of the Evergreen Mobile Home Park in my constituency have been served notices of rent increases recently, in some cases as high as $40 per month, to cover costs of, in part at least, the landlord's restructuring of their corporation. And this clearly, Mr. Speaker, is not fair, as the tenants not expected to pay for necessary renovations and certainly to pay for flipping of titles of properties between corporations. My question is to the Minister of Corporate and Consumer Affairs. Will the Minister agree to protect tenants by creating guidelines to govern which costs are unacceptable to be passed on to tenants?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not familiar with the particular circumstance that the honourable member refers to, and I'd be happy to take a look at it. However, overall, the market forces are those which determine rent costs and increases. We have, over the past number of years, looked at the increases that have been encountered. Find that for over the past year, for example, in terms of rent, it's about 7%. In terms of mobile homes and the Mobile Home Sites Tenancies Act, we will be reviewing that act as we review the Landlord and Tenant Act and the changes that might be suggested with respect to that particular legislation.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my other concern is for tenants. And in Alberta, the Alberta law does not obligate a landlord to give reason for reason of eviction, providing he gives his 3 months notice, or in the mobile home case, it's 6 months. This is unfair again, and I believe, Mr. Speaker, this might well be unconstitutional. And it also means that the provincial's human relations laws are virtually ineffective protecting tenants. Will the Minister commit today to protect tenants by changing the law so the landlords are required to provide a reason for eviction with their 3 months or 6 months notices?
Mr. Speaker, the concept of having a landlord to give a tenant a reason for eviction in either of the time frames that have been suggested is one of those items which are being considered as part of the McLaughlin report recommendations that were introduced or were reported last spring. We will be looking at all of the input received and the two sides of that question which have been brought forward over the next couple of months. I should indicate to the honourable member and to other members of the House that we've had a good response from landlords and from tenants across the province in terms of their opinions on that report, and we will now as a government have to balance those opinions, taking into account the property rights that are there on the part of landlords and the desire on the part of tenants to know a particular reason before making that decision. I might say that is a particularly difficult topic in terms of defining what reasons might be available. We've looked at other provinces where in some cases they require that reason to be given. And there are some difficulties attached to those definitions. But I certainly undertake to look at that topic as we review the Landlord and Tenant Act items and, of course, once that's done, taking a look at the Mobile Home Sites Tenancies Act and others that relate to this topic.
Member for Smoky River.
Mr. Speaker, several months ago, the Honourable Minister of Family and Social Services introduced significant and positive reforms to the province's commitment toward and delivery of daycare. Somewhat disturbingly, however, I've had concerns expressed by a very few constituents that these reforms may have a negative impact on the flow of dollars. My question, Mr. Speaker, is to the Minister of Family and Social Services. Has there been a cutback in the amount of dollars available today since the daycare reforms were introduced?
Mr. Speaker, absolutely not. There hasn't been any cutbacks in dollars whatsoever. Our government has always felt very strong and very committed to the daycare initiatives in this province. And I would first of all point out that, in fact, this year our dollar commitment increased. Last year our budget was approximately $67 million. This year our budget is $75 million. Mr. Speaker, I'd also want to point out to the member for Smoky River that because of the strong commitment that we've had as a government, we have seen a daycare program evolve over the last decade in this province that's second to none in Canada. Clearly the message that I got through the review that we've just undertaken was how good parents felt about the daycare that was available to their children. I'd also point out, Mr. Speaker, that we're the only province in Canada that actually has a vacancy rate. There isn't another province that can stand up and say that. Mr. Speaker, we feel that it's important to have daycare in place. We have changed our focus somewhat. We're putting a higher emphasis on low-income families. We want to be able to help them with their needs, Mr. Speaker, and in particular single-parent mothers.
My supplementary, Mr. Speaker, is briefly, first of all, I'd like to say that I am indeed pleased with the level of commitments made to Albertans who require daycare services. I would now like to ask the Minister if he could tell the House how Alberta's financial commitment ranks with the rest of the country.
Well, Mr. Speaker, certainly it can change from time to time, and I don't have precise numbers in front of me, but I can assure the member for Smoky River and the members present that if we're not at the top on a per capita basis, we're certainly near the top on a per capita basis. It was also interesting, Mr. Speaker, it was also interesting for me to note that an independent assessment by a management consulting firm by the name of Runsheimer Canada Incorporated. We're evaluating daycare costs in all the major cities across Canada and throughout the territories. And certainly through that review process, they pointed out, although we weren't the lowest in Canada, we were the second lowest. Interesting enough, it was St. John's, New Brunswick that was the lowest at just under $3,000 per year. We're just over $3,000, and that was based on a 3-year-old child. So, Mr. Speaker, again, I think that we can be pleased with the level of daycare that we're providing in this province, with the cost that is being made available in this province, and we're going to continue, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that daycare is there for those that need it.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, McKnight. The Honourable Member for Calgary, McKnight. Here.
Mr. Speaker, because this government has not listened to the administrators and boards of governors of our post-secondary institutions when they've cried out for more funds, we have a situation where thousands of Albertans are being turned away from our colleges, technical schools, and universities. They have done a yeoman's job of cutting costs while maintaining quality. What they haven't been able to do, however, is maintain accessibility. This very afternoon, the Board of Governors at the University of Lethbridge in the Minister's constituency is voting to hold enrollment at that university to 3,669 students. Mr. Speaker, if current projections hold, this means that 300 students will be turned away from the University of Lethbridge this fall. My question to the Minister of Advanced Education is, what will the Minister do to prevent this ongoing betrayal of Albertans who strive for a post-secondary education?
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member for McKnight makes somewhat serious allegations about betrayals. Mr. Speaker, one would have to look at the University of Lethbridge, which I submit is perhaps the finest undergraduate liberal arts institution in the country, and recognize, Mr. Speaker, that over the past 2 years, enrollment has increased by almost 2,000. I'd point out, Mr. Speaker, that one of the reasons has been the Access to Excellence program that the government has funded. I want the honourable member and members of the House, Mr. Speaker, to be aware that, number one, institutions set their admission requirements, and not this government. All 28. And that I think it should be viewed as an achievement by our institutions to be amongst the highest in Canada in terms of those who access those institutions. In other words, there's a strong demand, Mr. Speaker, for Albertans to be better and better educated, and I think we should be proud of that fact. Right.
Lethbridge representatives aren't doing anything. That's the trouble.
Mr. Speaker, my second question is to the acting premier, who is also from Lethbridge. Will the acting premier immediately review levels of funding of post-secondary institutions in light of all these quotas, and more quotas?
I tell you, Mr. Speaker, I'd love to give a profile of the policy on advanced education in this province. It is the most outstanding policy of any province in Canada, Mr. Speaker. I would love to. I could go for about 35 or 40 minutes just on that policy alone, but I know my colleague, the Minister of Advanced Education, his words are the words that have taken exactly from my mouth, Mr. Speaker. He's right on point.
The honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon had a point of order.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, citation 414 and 417 out of 6th edition of Beauchesne. The reason I brought it forward is the answer by the Honourable Minister of Transport, who's always very succinct and very accurate in my opinion. But in this case, when he talked about how much of the Alaska Highway was paved, I was rather shocked at the answer because I just come over it this fall, Mr. Speaker, and it's nearly all paved. And I would ask him to go back and check his figures, because to use those 20-year-old figures to justify the rather sneaky way of not paving the Grand Prairie Road, the access to the Grand Prairie, is a very low blow indeed, because that gravel stretch is very bad. And I'd ask that he check his figures.
Order, please. I believe the honourable minister.
I get to respond, Mr. Speaker. The point of order, whatever it was, I'm sure it was a case of either a wrong turn or being told where to go. But in the case of where the statistics came from, they're probably 3 days old from the Yukon government and from the government of Alaska. And when I said BTS, that's bitumen surface treatment, that is called dust control, it's not pavement.
Might there be unanimous consent to revert to the introduction of special guests? The honourable member for Edmonton Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my pleasure to introduce 76 students from Holy Trinity High School who are now in our public and members galleries. Holy Trinity High School is situated in the constituency of Avonmore. Many of the students live in the constituency of Mill Woods. They are accompanied by their teacher, Miss George Robert and Miss Cynthia Winter. I would ask that they now rise and receive the warm welcome of this assembly.
Orders of the